So you've done it, everybody. You made it to the final. So I just want to do a couple of things here to describe what you're going to see here in the final description, and then we'll get into it. One big note of change here, clearly, we are dealing with a, I would say unusual, but I'm sure you're sick of hearing that. So frankly, a shitty set of circumstances whereby we're not in the normal classroom situation for this. There's a couple of considerations here in the description that are classroom specific considerations. Any place where it says, using the photos you took at RVC, that was the session 7 balance of it, right? So you would have gone around campus and taken pictures, and you'd have had the opportunity to be the fun class that every other class that's sitting there in summer school gets to look out their window and go, they look like they're having fun. And now you, like me, are cloistered in your basement. So that's a small change. So this is the change I'm going to tell you about here, and I'm just going to let it permeate down through the description here. I kind of agonized about changing the description, but I thought, like in a useless case of hopefulness, I would leave it in there so that maybe someday we might return to normal. So any place that it says where you are supposed to provide the images that you took in class, you can get those from any place. And I'll actually drop the links in here. You can get them from Pixneo, you can get them from Pixabay, you can get them from Unsplash. Do not use Google Photos just to go and grab them for two reasons. Number one, because it is absolutely the right thing to do. If we are here in a web class, you should absolutely be doing this right? So it's like driver's ed. Drive with your hands at 9 and 3 because that's the safest way to do it. This is the safest way to do photos for the web, is a royalty-free, unattributable image that you get inside of its license. Unsplash, Pixneo, Pixabay. Everything else is in here in the description, but you know, I actually expect that there's a little bit of leeway that we'll be able to bake into this assignment for you. So speaking of leeway, before we get into anything else, I always approve when a project you can do for one of my classes can be reused in another class or reused in some other frame. So if you've had a project that you have been dying to get published, that you have been dying to see what it would look like on the web forever, right? Whatever that means, and you want to do that, just reach out and we'll negotiate our way into it. I say yes to nearly everything when it comes to alternative project for the Web 101 final. Actually, I've never said no. I have, for the all of it, so the majority, I have only given corrective feedback where, you know, I want to make sure you're recouping all the points that otherwise the description would have said this is what you would do and you go in a different direction. I just want to make sure that everything is going to turn out in your favor for that. So if you've had a project that you want to do, or if you want to do one for a family member, a club you're associated with, whatever, I've had individuals do Scentsy candles, a Twitch streaming website. I've had just a whole host of different things. I've yet here at RVC to say no. So you will create a now remember, if you're going to do a different website, just like ignore the RVC bit here and say my website, whatever your website is instead. But in general, and any place where it says Teams here, if you have via the Zoom meetings or etc., if you have created a project team, go use it. That's fine with me. If you would like help creating a project team, I will help you set that up, with messages, etc. here for the class. When you are in the industry, unless all of society collapses here, you are going to be working in project teams anyway. So I actually think projects like this are better served for you, for your project team, and just the product in general, if you do work in project teams. So if that's something you would like to pursue, let me know, and we will happily pursue that for you. You will create a Come to RVC website. This website will consist of 4 blocks of content. So instead of creating a website that goes from page 1 to page 2 to page 3 to page 4, what we're doing is a website that scrolls downward in the way that you would see most good modern websites do. So think about all of the links that I have put for you here in class. When you go to Smashing Magazine, when you go to The Verge, when you go to Engadget or Yahoo even, you don't go read a little block of content, go to page 2, read a little block of content, go to page 3. You scroll down through the content, and that's what we are looking for you to do here. So you will create per the description rather, you will create 1 CSS and 1 HTML page that scrolls downward, not HTML, 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 HTML. So the nomenclature of your design will focus on all 3 of the browser variants: desktop, tablet, and mobile. So again, where I mention RVC here, if you want to do an alternative project, that's fine. Just think. 10 points for a Come to RVC welcome block. You'll use pictures with border, 2 of them. You may choose from Unsplash or wherever else. You can have more than 2 pictures if you'd like to, but 2 is the bare minimum there. You'll have 3 paragraphs of text, something like describing the student experience, describing the library, describing, how many Canadian geese we have defecating on campus. I don't really care what the content is there. That I'm leaving largely to you. Remember that it should be appropriate because this is a live page, and tall enough to scroll 1 full page. I have of the iMacs here, but you can't test them there anyway. What I will suggest is that 1 full page is 1,000 pixels or thereabout of vertical content. That's roughly speaking correct. I just want to make sure that I have to scroll down, down, down through your content instead of having a very small, very short web page here. So that's what we are looking for. Next, you will have an image gallery relating to RVC. That will be its own block. That's another 10 points. Think about the image gallery, for instance, in Chapter 8 or in Chapters 11 or 8 as a start. This will consist of 8 to 10 images, again from Unsplash or Pixneo or Pixabay. Formatted for best loading across all web devices. Think about Chapter 11. You made some concessions there, so think about that. You'll want text to support the images, so remember that images in and of themselves are not enough to get an unknown potential future client to stay here on your web page. So you are going to need to provide textual content there so that they can, connect the images that you have to, in this case, the experience that you are trying to convey at Rock Valley College. Remember, appropriate for the content, appropriate, and tall enough to scroll 1 full, it says the iMacs, but again, at least tall enough to be another 1,000 pixels or so tall. The remaining 2 blocks can reflect any content that you choose. And I know for some of you this is going to be burdensome, and I know for others of you this is going to be, hey, that's great, this is what I want to do. As a web designer, this is what you'll have to deal with. They'll say, I want you to talk about our business, and you're going to have to be able to go, okay, and keep going forward with that. So whatever this means in the way of content, figure it out. Each one of those pages, or each one of those content blocks rather, will consist of 3 paragraphs and at least 1 image. So now we get to the more, well, potentially that part was difficult enough, but now we get to the more design-oriented aspects of that. That was all content to date. Here we're looking at the selection of font and color. The font selection conveys a look and feel of the site. So I would suggest fonts like Chalk Duster, like Comic Sans, the ones that have, you know, really crummy big C's, and like the Comic Sans does with the Charlie Brown looking font faces. That's not going to convey the kind of message you want. So use the Google Font Library to find 1 or 2 or 3 fonts that you are going to use to help convey the message for Rock Valley College, or the message for whatever the website it is that you're developing moving forward. So they must be from the Google Font Library, and they are legible and add clues for the user to determine what is where. So think about things like bold, think about things like underline, think about things like font size, maybe even a font color, to help draw the user's attention to different aspects of your page. So you've seen this the while through the links here in RVC, in Eagle rather. Now it's your turn to actually create that with a look and feel. You must have color, size, font face additions that indicate the following: a new piece of text content for each of your content blocks. So think about things like anchors. And I don't mean like link anchors, although I mean link anchors. But think about things like gallery, think about things like welcome, think about things like contact, or whatever you're putting in there. All of those are necessary so that the user knows what kind of content it is that they are supposed to assume your images and what they are supposed to assume your text relates to. So all of that there is 5 points over 4 pages. Make sure that the colors are complementary or highly contrasty and look professional. You're creating a brand here. So my suggestion is that the following things are true. If you recreate by accident a Pacific Trails Resort or Path of Light Yoga Studio, Welcome to Rock Valley College page, that's not gonna cut it. You are branding this. So think about things like color.adobe.com. Think about things like any of the other tools that we had for you, the W3 Schools Color Picker, or any of those tools from Chapter 3, or any of the tools that are listed for you in the colors and fonts pages. That is going to help you create a modern, professional, high-quality look and feel that you can translate into your website. So those are 10 points across all of your content blocks. You must include here a stylized table that formats data in an easy-to-read fashion for the user. I'm not going to tell you what that means. Remember, tables should not be a major content delivery system for your website. They should, however, make content highly regular and highly easy to read. Now, I will tell you that there must be considerations for your table across all 3 browser classes: desktop, tablet, smartphone. So make sure, because I am going to make sure, that you have descriptions across all 3 of your media queries. Balanced text, so think about over your entire page. What you do not want to do is create text, text, image, image, text, text, image, image, because that looks terrible. It looks absolutely terrible. What you want to do is balance text and paragraphs, and think about any of the pages that I've included here in Eagle, or think about any of the pages it is that you would read. I mean, like Reddit and Wikipedia aside, but any of the good multimedia pages that you would read on the internet, and try. So, across your page, a collection of elements. Think about media, font, color, text, etc. that work together. Again, you're making one comprehensive product. So what we don't want to see is a big red block, a big yellow block, a big blue block, and a big green block, because that's gonna look terrible. What the hell were you thinking? Don't do that. Navigation, I want you to include a nav panel, and think about the following. Are you better served if you have a fixed navigation panel? Think about it. You've already done the code for that. You've already done the code for a lot of this kind of layout with Layout 2. Is there any way for you to expand Layout 2 here into this project? Probably. 40 points for desktop, tablet, and mobile optimized. You'll want to create a modern look using a wrapper and other classes and IDs. You must include a wrapper. Anything else is gravy there, 10 points. CSS descriptions for all three types: desktop, tablet, mobile. Tablet and mobile descriptions change elements that are not useful or logical with the sizing restrictions. So think about things like images. Can we make those smaller? Think about things like text. What can we do to help with that? Think about things like your table. How can that change based on desktop, tablet, smartphone? You will notice in the session 6, the layout design walkthrough I give you shows you exactly what to do if you want to include or disinclude pieces of your page from one media query to another. So there are examples out there for those of you who are just about to complain at me. We never did this. Oh, I showed this to you. It's in chapter 6. Go back and look at the video. Next, relative sizing to ensure that the differences in resolutions between devices doesn't break your page. So use percents and EMs rather than pixels and points where possible. 40 points. Now this is a big one for an image gallery across all devices. So the desktop version will have, so this goes all the way back to your second block of content. The desktop version has the hover type gallery that paints smaller thumbnail images to a larger canvas. 10 points. Yes, I know this is redundant, but this adds back more content to the textual content that you would have created before. The tablet, here's where the important thing is. The tablet changes the size of the images so that each image takes up 40-ish, but use your calibrated eyeball, percent of the page. So that essentially what we're looking for is one image to load side by side with the next image. You do know how to do this. Now, here as a verbal breadcrumb, let me suggest the following. In the desktop version, you do, and because I'm telling you you do, you require a hover over type gallery, right? Where you hover over a thumbnail and it paints to your canvas. Can you hover on a tablet? No. Or on a smartphone? No. So the real trick here is to disable the mechanism that paints your hover for the gallery. The tablet version will change those images so that they take up 40-ish% of your overall width of the page, but do not paint to that canvas. The mobile version of the site has large images that take up a majority of your screen real estate. So whether or not they take up 85% or 100%, that is up to you. So that is the overall for the project here. I will note the following things: that there is a 170 points deduction for what I like to call asshole tax. I have only here at Rock Valley had to employ it one time on an asshole. So you want to do our world famous defecating Canadian geese. Cheeky, fun, that's fine. But anything that would be disparaging to Rock Valley, no. So don't do it. And I've only had to levy the tax one time on somebody who was daring me to have to do it. So maybe just don't. The other thing I will mention is I take the the project in general as what you would be doing to hand in a product to a client. So any lateness is going to incur that 50% penalty. 1 minute late, 50% penalty. And I'm not doing it to be a jackwagon. I am doing it because that really is the way that these projects are seen. Hey, look, I know you said we needed to deliver that Monday. I'm going to have it a little bit later. Starts dropping your overall paycheck. So maybe let's stay away from that. I have in the past, with the projects that you hand in, kind of squint my way down to, I know what you meant for things, but anything that is missing from your project or anything that is not explicitly done in your project, I am not going to squint my way down to. I am just going to mark it off because that's what your client would do. If you have to describe to your client later on, hey, look, I know you wanted an image gallery, and I know that that was a big takeaway from our meetings or points here in the layout, but I just felt like I couldn't get it done in time. So here is an image gallery consisting of one image, and it's a smiley face because it made me happy. It ain't there. So I'm going to take points off for those. I am going to be far less likely to squint my way down to, this is what you meant. No, you've got to get that in order, intact, and published for me. Even if, the very final caveat, if you are working in a project team, you must all of you hand in the product separately. We use the final product as a stand-in for an exam. We use that to be able to tell other schools what it is that you are doing of use, of worth, of good positive learning here with this course. So, you know, if we have project teams in there out of a course of 15 like we have, if like a third of you handed in because, or a fifth of you, or whatever the case might be, that doesn't work for some college standards. So everybody has to hand it in, even if you work in a project team. Just let me know who you were working with. So that's a lot to chew on, but you'll notice it's most of everything you have on your plate this week. If you have questions, if you're in trouble with it, message me and let me know. This is your last opportunity to do that. Remember, if, as some of you have, you've just been dragging your feet and then you ask me questions in your final submission, that's not going to cut it here. You need a finished product. So have at it and good luck, everybody.